In this video, I'm going to show you how to bring in our 3MF files that we exported from Fusion 360 and bring them into Prusa Slicer so that we can slice them and export them to our 3D printer. So in here, on our top bar, we have an add button. And after we hit add, we're going to want to find where we saved our files. You may have saved them in a flash drive on the side, or if you have them saved on the computer, you can find it there as well. I saved mine in downloads. So here are my 6 pieces that I exported from Fusion 360. I'm going to click on each one and I'm going to import them into my workspace. So as I bring these in, you'll notice that I'm bringing them close to the center of our 3D printer. And I am also bringing them relatively close together. The one nice thing that when we were drawing these up in Fusion 360 is that I laid them flat after we joined each one of those little cubes. And what that did for us is that allowed us to have these come in nice and flat like that. Now, let's say when you exported them from Fusion 360, you missed one of them or you accidentally didn't have one like that, so that there was a support or an overarching area that needed support underneath. We can still lay them flat inside of our slicer. And on our side panel right here, we have a place on face button there. And you'll notice that when when we click on that, we have these little white translucent blobs up here, and that's representing the face that we want to put it to. So let's say I want to lay this piece down. I'll highlight it, and if I click on that surface right there, it's going to lay it flat for us. Now, I don't want that part over there. I would like it back over here, so I can click on my move button. I can move it back to where it was. Now we have all of our pieces laid out. We have them all flat. We want to make sure that we are relatively in the center of our build plate. The reason being is our build plate is heated, and you'll have the most success with your parts sticking to your heated bed if you keep it in the center. As you start printing more along the edges, it doesn't like staying as warm over there, and you can run the risk of having parts pop off. And then the last thing is we want to make sure that everything is relatively close to each other, because as our printer goes from one part to the other, we don't want to have to be wasting time having our print head come up, come back down. Right? But we want these as close as possible, but we don't want to have them touching. So after we have all of our pieces in there, we have all of our surfaces placed on a face so that we don't need to use supports. We're going to come over to the right-hand side of the screen. And on top, what we want to do is we want to select our Creality Ender 3 V2. And we want to double check that we are using our PLA. Our PLA is a good starter filament to use. It has certain properties that are easier for us to print with. Our infill, we want to have at 15%. We don't want to be using supports. None. And we also do not want to be using a brim, so make sure that that's not checked. Last thing we need to do is we need to click on Slice Now. And when it slices, it changes what the view looks like. If we want to ever get back to our 3D editor view, we can just click on that button over there. And it'll bring us back to our original view. But for our preview or our slice view, we click on there and we can see all the different tool paths that our 3D printer will be taking. If we want to see what each layer will look like, we can drag this down over here and we can see what our infill, everything like that looks like. But for this, everything looks good. I'm going to export G-code. And when we export this, we want to export this onto a micro SD card from over in the Fab Lab that we can get either from the spot next to the computer or from one of the Ender 3s. What I'm going to do inside of this is I'm going to type in my last name, so Brill, and then a description of what it is. So this is going to be my puzzle cube. Type in P. And when we hit save, I already have a file like this on there, so we'll hit save to overwrite it. And when we have finished exporting, what we want to do is we want to click on the eject drive button right there, and it'll unmount our SD card. What we'll do then is you'll go on to the next video and you'll learn how to set up your 3D printer with your SD card ready for 3D printing.